Hello, guys. So I'm going to start this live stream with a horrible pun because just before starting the stream, I was in a bit of a pickle, because I was like a little hungry and I was thinking, which snack should I eat just before the stream? And I decided to eat a pickle. So, anyway, yes, it's absolutely horrible. I know. But since I just came up with it and had to share it with someone, you're going to hear me eating a pickle for the next minute or so. However, by that time, Carlos Alcaraz and Camilo Carabelli will likely be more or less starting their match. So, in a way, that timeline is very good for us. And yeah, of course, we're watching Alcaraz. No John in Buenos Aires preview today, just been attending Cam's Glum press conference. Yeah, no kidding. It must have been pretty glum. Anyway, we are of course watching the second round between Alcaraz and Carabelli. This is the first match of Alcaraz this tournament. He is defending the title. Is there a bit of pressure on him because of that? 250 points probably don't matter all that much when you have 8K, but of course he's gonna be motivated to win it, and of course he's the big favorite to win it, especially after Nori has just gone out, France Cerundolo has gone out, Laszlo Djere, who I think is a fairly uncomfortable matchup, has gone out as well. Let me finish my pickle in the meantime. And yes, when it comes to Ugo Carabelli, of course, he qualified. And in fact, he actually saved 3 consecutive match points in the qualifying against Ugo Dellien. He was love 40 down on serve. He saved all 3. He managed to prevail. He managed to qualify. And right now, he is playing a top 10 opponent for the second time in his career. The first one being at Roland Garros 2022 when he lost to Felix Auger-Aliassime. It wasn't a good match. However, it was kinda also like that because of his first round, because he played Aslan Karatsev and was like a 4-hour something match, and he vomited after the night after or something like that. And yeah, basically he couldn't really compete against Felix. I'm not saying he would have beaten Felix, I'm saying he could have won games at least. Does it look pretty grim, his future in this tournament, Ugo Carabelli? Yes, I would say so. Like there's very like when it comes to hurting Alcaraz, it's pretty hard to imagine him doing that realistically, because if Carlos has like a bit of a rhythm problem early on, which could be a thing, of course, then it feels like Ugo Carabelli after like a few games is going to let him play himself into that good groove. That's what I would assume. There might be a possibility for Camilo to win, maybe if he like trusts his forehand a lot more than he usually does. This is definitely like the higher potential version of his game when he's going for it, when he's willing to risk, when he's willing to be on the front foot more so than just trading, running around and hitting balls, basically, because that's a mode that he certainly tends to fall into a lot of the time as well. So hopefully more of that aggressive, inventive Ugo Carabelli today, and maybe then we're gonna see a pretty decent match. But yeah, if you're asking, whether this can end in like an hour, 30 minutes, that's probably the more likely outcome. But we'll see. Of course, they've never played each other yet. Basically, they haven't really featured in the same events most of the time, other than that, Roland Garros campaign and maybe a couple of Golden Swing events last year as well. Although I don't think Camilo would have been in Rio, so probably just Buenos Aires. First point of the match is an Alcaraz forehand shank, so let's see if he can sort of avoid a similar start as Cam Nori had, because the Nori first match was pretty awful against Fede Coria, and I guess it was the same case last year when Nori barely fought through Diaz Acosta, and then of course the rest sort of was history. He makes the final in Buenos Aires, he wins Rio, but this time he couldn't survive that opening round, which I think he was actually much worse than against Diaz Acosta. I think Diaz Acosta was really peaking to get him in trouble last year. Coria today, it was a bit of a mess, that match. Let's see if Alcaraz avoids it. He actually had a patchy start to the Golden Swing himself a couple of years ago, playing Jaume Munar, I think, in the opening round in Rio. but it was like a 2-6 set that he dropped, and after that he dominated. Last year, I think he lost a set in Buenos Aires, but I don't think it was the first match. So basically, last year we can say that he avoided a same, that sort of issue at least. Of course, later on, as sort of that whole Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro fortnight came to a close, he was, well, lightly injured. He was really struggling physically, but that was also a different case because he was starting the year with these tournaments and like was actually coming back from an injury, right? Whereas right now he has already played the Australian Open. Did he do perfectly fine there? I guess he won't be too pleased with the way he performed against Alex Zverev. However, still, it was a much better Alcaraz showing than last year for sure. I mean, much better. He has more rhythm now, is what I'm trying to say. It's not his first match of the season in Buenos Aires. It's not his first tournament of the season. Juan Carlos Ferrero back in his box, of course. He was not there at the Australian Open. Was that part of the reasons for the loss? I mean, maybe in a way, Ferrero could have just calmed him down a little bit more effectively, but obviously that's not something we can really use as an excuse in any way. Actually, after that second point where Alcaraz just cracked the first forehand and kind of overwhelmed Ugo Carabelli with the pace that he produces, right now, the next 2 points, errors. So definitely the start has been a bit wobbly. Let's see how long this continues and also if Camilo Ugo Carabelli can get that first game. Camilo is on a win streak, actually. He won the Challenger in Piracicaba and, of course, the qualifying here, winning the first round here as well. So he's actually on an 8-match win streak right now. Definitely playing, some of his best stuff the last 8 matches. It feels like against Alcaraz it shouldn't be enough, but who the hell knows? We'll see. Carlos actually commits a double fault to give away that break, so it's 1 game to Ugo Carabelli. He leads with a break, but of course on clay, it's not as meaningful, generally speaking. I think that's Carlos Berlocq in the I believe so, in the Camilo Ugo Carabelli box. Belloc, I don't think he's won Buenos Aires. He won Estoril, right? And what was the other event that he won? Maybe it was like São Paulo. I have to check. I don't think it was Buenos Aires, though. Anyway, let's see if Ugo Carabelli can, keep up that scoreboard pressure at least, because, of course, this opening game, he didn't actually need to do all that much. And he actually kicks off with a double fault as well. So the last 2 points have been double fault. Of course, one of them by Alcaraz, one of them by Ugo Carabelli. It's Bostad that was the second title for Berlocq. He also made a final in Viña del Mar, I think, but no, not in Buenos Aires during the Golden Swing. Ugo Carabelli trying to be a bit more proactive with this first forehand here, but he misses it wide. Love 30. Big forehand return here from Alcaraz as well. He just really unleashed on it, stepped pretty close to the baseline as well, and took that kick rotation from Ugo Carabelli quite early. It's a massive cross-court shot, and he gets to 3 break points to get that break advantage right away. Ugo Carabelli throwing him outside the court with a decent first serve out wide. However, Alcaraz is back in it. He is dictating with his forehand, and he throws in the forehand drop shot. But Ugo Carabelli will actually track it down and hit this pretty nice response down the line with the slice. Earlier today, I read that Tommy Paul has been trying to implement more drop shots into his game, and apparently it is Carlos Alcaraz inspired. That's quite interesting. But yeah, I think a lot of players after the initial rise of Alcaraz have sort of looked at that in their, looked to introduce that in their games as well. Tommy, of course, right now he's actually playing in Delray and losing to Alex Mikkelsen for now. He's down a set. I haven't been watching that one, so I don't know if the drop shot was a part of it or not. But apparently he's been practicing that quite a lot. Has Alcaraz landed this? I don't know. Apparently not. He had this point really like sort of well thought out, well planned, with eventually the kill shot, or at least the point that was gonna give him the point, force the error, being that loopy forehand down the line, and he just missed it apparently long. So just one more breakpoint now for Alcaraz from low 40 being such a huge advantage. Suddenly we might not get there, and we actually don't. His return just sitting up for Carabelli to attack it. You can already see that Camilo is not too comfortable on such balls, because like he really took his time with this. This wasn't the sort of I get a short ball, I run up to it, I hit it. No, I mean he really took his time, and with that he actually gave Alcaraz a chance to pass him with the forehand cross, but Alcaraz is still a little off in terms of just overall, rhythm coordination, I guess, and he couldn't find it, not even close. But there will be a fourth opportunity, as now a more sort of calmer rally is won by Alcaraz, with Ugo Carabelli committing a backhand unforced error. First serve not doing any damage this time. However, Ugo Carabelli is dictating a little bit and goes backhand down the line, actually. I don't know how Alcaraz even got to this ball. And I guess it's the first sort of spectacular point from Alcaraz, this golden swing, as he really tracked down that backhand down the line that seemed impossible for him to even catch it. And I guess you could probably blame Ugo Carabelli for not going to the net after it. But, well, of course, it's not part of his natural instincts. But great shot, actually, from Camilo. And Alcaraz just tracks it down and eventually wins the point. So 1 game all. And the break has been restored. I think we probably already have a clue, though, that this will not be like the main narrative in this match. Who gets the most breaks will still win the match, most probably, but it won't be a match decided by one break each set, probably. Alcaraz trying to approach with the forehand, with the +1 forehand, but he gets kind of burned. Ugo Carabelli with a nice backhand cross-court pass on the slide. I wonder if we're gonna see John Silk at any any point of the broadcast. That would be hilarious, especially if they gave him John Silk, creator of Talking Tennis. Obviously, that won't happen. But if we just saw him as one of the random people in the crowd or in the media stand, that would be quite funny. Alcaraz with another drop shot, but it's not too good. I think Ugo Carabelli should get this point, and indeed he does. He tracks it down. Alcaraz doesn't have too many options then. He can actually just play this soft shot through the net, but Ugo Carabelli is already there. And he manages to go up 30 love again on the Alcaraz delivery. Had to be pretty stretched on the volley, but it was still basically, however he touched the ball, it probably would have been a winner most of the time. So, well, yeah, a couple of drop shots from Alcaraz, but Ugo Carabelli so far winning both points. And that's a double fault again, so love 40. We might get a third break in a row. The last one was actually given away on a double fault. This one was set up by the double fault. Let's see if Alcaraz can hit his second serve this time. He does. It's a decent return from Ugo Carabelli. Some great footwork from both guys here. And Ugo Carabelli actually passes him with a great sort of outside the ball banana forehand pass. Great stuff so far. And of course, some of the limitations in his game have shown up already, but he's been really good at the reactive play and sort of counter punching, finding his opportunity to strike. And so far, he is leading 2-1 after 3 breaks. Definitely a bit of a patchy Alcaraz beginning to the match, to the golden swing as well. We'll see how quickly he gets used to the conditions, or maybe he doesn't. Come Nori today, he definitely was struggling all the way until the end. For Alcaraz, it seems like they should be more natural, but well, we'll see. I think he's also trying to defend the title for like the third time or something like that. He won Barcelona in 2022 and 23, Alcaraz, and also Madrid in 2022-23. Almost defended Rio in 2022-23 as well. And Buenos Aires, of course, is one of the titles that he won last year. Actually, not that many of them that he won last year. But well, he did get, of course, Indian Wells, and he also got Wimbledon and Queens. So 4 of them. It's just that they dried out at some point, and as well Madrid, Barcelona. Well, not that many. Let's say in the second half of the year. Yeah, is what I was trying to say. Basically, they kind of dried out, and I was surprised by this when I was recently when Bublik won his third title since the grass season, right? In When Bublik won his first third title since the grass season, I was looking at all the players who have done it on the ATP Tour since, and I was like, Alcaraz? I don't think he has, because he only has 2 grass titles. But I had to double check it like 2 or 3 times, because it seems like it's Carlos Alcaraz. He should have more. So he'll definitely be looking for like a rebound in terms of that pretty soon. Indian Wells being a great opportunity, but also these 2 events in the Golden Swing. Whew, that's a wild forehand miss from Ugo Carabelli. He was keeping himself in this rally pretty well, eventually trying to sort of go for broke and bail out of it. This is Guillermo Coria on our screen, number 3 in the world. Of course, the brother of Federico Coria, who earlier today beat Cameron Norrie. Guillermo Coria was a Grand Slam finalist. 2004, he lost to Gaston Gaudio in an all-Argentinian final at Roland Garros. Had 2 match points, so he's one of the players on the short list of having a match point in a Grand Slam final and not clinching it, which I think this list is actually just Federer and him, but I might be wrong with that. There might have been something in recent years that I'm not thinking of. I do think this list is just him and Federer, actually. Of course, by now Guillermo Coria is long retired, but his brother Federico still part of the ATP circuit and twice ATP Tour finalist. I think so, right? Oh my goodness! I mean, yeah, just all the aggressive play from Ugo Carabelli ends in wild errors, and here he just had the open court for forehand drive and still misses it. There was some good hitting in this rally, but the finishing blow, the execution at the end, just wasn't good enough at all. But when he's playing off the Alcaraz pace like here, yeah, he can actually bring up some great points. And he wins this one as well, although for a moment it seemed like, this Alcaraz lob has to be spot on. But actually he overcooks it a little bit. So one more break point for the Spaniard to give us our 4th break of the match potentially. Yeah, we can see on the replay that it was really close. Like after watching the replay, I am less sure that it was out than before. But of course, it's a clay court. They could see the mark, or at least Ugo Carabelli could see the mark. It's an interesting second serve as well, just rolling it in down the tee, and Alcaraz barely sort of was standing so far wide that he kind of barely gets to it. However, he wins the point eventually, cracks this big forehand down the line, and finishes it off with a volley. So 4 breaks, 2 games all. Ugo Carabelli keeping up with Alcaraz so far on the scoreboard, but seeing points like this, you kind of wonder how long this will last, But well, let's see. Will we finally get our first hold of the match? Is the question now, with Carlos Alcaraz about to serve at 2 games all. +1 forehands like that will help, although I think no, he actually won't have to smash it, as the defensive resource from Ugo Carabelli is just wide. But yeah, if he can start getting that first serve in a bit more often and just crack that first forehand like this, it's a bit of a, like, it's weaponry that Ugo Carabelli just does not possess in his game, and does not really have a way of ensuring that this doesn't happen. This point he should have won though. Alcaraz serving volleying, he plays this half volley that was a bit reminiscent to me of the one he hit against Rusevori in Madrid on the break point. It wasn't as good though, and Ugo Carabelli totally should have passed him. I think he also chose the tougher option, or at least, well, the easier option maybe in terms of the direction, so going cross instead of down the line, but going at Alcaraz, like Alcaraz actually feasibly could have gotten that shot back, but also, yeah, he just missed it entirely. That's a great shot now for Carlos, forehand winner, basically running backwards. He still generates a lot of pop on it, and manages to wrong foot Ugo Carabelli with it. Usually, when you have that sort of footwork pattern, right, when you're like running backwards for a really long distance into your backhand corner, you're usually gonna expect an inside-out shot from that. It's very, very rare to hit it that direction, so I'm not surprised that Ugo Carabelli didn't get that. I remember a Casper Ruud forehand like this from last year. I can't remember what the tournament was, but it was like earlier in the season, first half of the season, where he did like basically a marathon from one side to the other, and he still finds that forehand inside in, and the opponent was like completely flabbergasted. Double fault for Alcaraz, but this time it does not matter as much as in the previous 2 games, since it's still 40-15. Of course, his first service game of the match, he hit it breakpoint down. His second game of the match, his second service game of the match, he hit it loft 30 down. So it's definitely not quite as crucial here, but let's see. 40-15. And second serve again. This time he's very safe with it. Carabelli with a heavy return, and he should like his chances in a rally like this, unless he allows Alcaraz sort of too much freedom to unleash on a forehand. But then Ugo Carabelli kind of bails out with this forehand dropper. I don't really get the idea behind it, because he seemed pretty comfortable holding off the Alcaraz pace here. Eventually, he goes for this drop shot, which was, well, of a very fast ball coming at him, and getting good control on it was kind of fantasy to me. But anyway, 20 minutes on, 3-2, first hold. If you want to, Nurlan, I mean, I just saw your message for the first time. I can stand up if you want to. You're not gonna see much of me for a second, but I can stand up. We can sing the anthem of Turkey if I ever learn it. But for now, let's stop with the singing. But yeah, glad you came, of course, the true legend of the chat. Yeah, Carlos Alcaraz, 3-2 on Ugo Carabelli, first hold of the match, and let's see if Ugo Carabelli can sort of stop, what seems inevitable. because it seems that at one point Alcaraz will sort of run away with it once he gets more into rhythm groove, finds his timing. But let's see if Camilo can do anything about it. Of course, so far he has not held serve in 2 attempts, so this would be a right moment to start doing that. Partially, it's really been easier for him to play on return when Alcaraz is dictating the points rather than sort of having to play some of these aggressive mid-court forehands that he's clearly been struggling with a little bit. Ugo Carabelli is definitely a bit of a weird beast in that I think he's often underrated as a ball striker. Like, he's not as much of a grinder pusher as people make him out to be sometimes. But at the same time, I feel like he himself considers himself a runner with a racket, if you may, a lot of the time. He really doesn't trust his game a lot of the time. But of course, especially if we see that version of his game from this week and also from Piracicaba, still a lot of chances for him to return to the 100. I think he was only there for like 2 or 3 weeks 2 years ago. Getting there at 96, I think, is his career high at the moment. Yeah, but he tries to go for this inside in here, and he misses it. So far, he's not really confirming what I said, about being a better ball striker than people give him credit for. His any attempts really to accelerate on the forehand have been very spotty. And yeah, that early lead that he got from the serve, it's already evaporated. This time the Alcaraz drop shot will be far too good. Yeah, it was just so well hidden now. Because he gets that one heavy forehand into the Carabelli backhand, and then he's just sort of in a position where usually you would expect him to just slap the forehand, the other direction, and that one is just kind of impossible to read. I think 15:30 now. Alcaraz gets back in control of the point with this huge return. However, he eventually misses a backhand. I was thinking about something earlier today, by the way, because I remember people very sort of wrongfully calling that Marozsan upset in Rome, upset of the decade or whatever over Alcaraz, which was so weird because, yeah, I think for the most part it just came from not knowing Marozsan's game. But I think this would be bigger. Like if Ugo Carabelli beats Alcaraz today, that would be bigger actually than Marozsan beating him. So that's why sometimes it might seem like I'm talking about this match as of some monumental task that Ugo Carabelli has in front of him, but it kind of is the case. He doesn't have that explosive edge to his game that Marozsan obviously has, and it will be hard for him to stop Alcaraz. We'll see. So far, of course, he's kind of leveled, especially if he wins this game. But wow, I mean, that's some insane forehands from Alcaraz. He was just sort of consistently upping the pace on these cross-court forehands. Just, every single shot was like 10 kilometers per hour faster until he finally found the opening and just went the same way and even faster. I would probably assume that like the first forehand was, I don't know, 100 miles or something. No, 100 miles, that could have been the winner, but let's say 70 miles, then 80 miles, then 90 miles for the winner or something like that. That's literally how it felt. And now he breaks with a forehand return winner as well. This one wasn't even that fast, honestly, but again, he runs around it and manages to find the inside in very heavy here too. So 4-2 up now, Alcaraz, and it does feel like that early, nervy beginning of the match has kind of gone away right now. Went away. No, has gone away. Yeah. For some reason, no, never mind. I wanted to start getting into some English discussion, because for some reason I see a lot of people writing that as well. For some reason, I always say, well, or at least most of the time, I tend to say have went instead of have gone. For some reason, it sounds really good, because obviously I'm not like one of these English learners who did everything by like studying the rules and the books and etc. I definitely just rely on intuition and how it sounds to me. So for some reason it sounds, but this time I actually said it right. So progress. Anyway, Carlos Alcaraz 4-2 up, first point of the seventh game. Is that really out? I mean, Alcaraz stopped play, I think, but well, I don't know. The umpire is coming. I think it should be a point for Carabelli. Yeah, and it's in. I don't know because I'm watching on mute. Did Alcaraz actually stop play or was it an out call? But it did seem to me like it has to be in. Let's see if he got the point or not. No, we're starting again. So it was an out call from the line umpire then. So still 4-2 up, still first point. Great serve, and he should be able to clean up this volleying opportunity easily, and indeed he does. This is a bit of the Medvedev pattern, right? The serve out wide, and because Ugo Carabelli is standing so far back, there's no real way for him to react to it unless the return is huge, unless he like really adds a lot of velocity on it as well. This floater did not make Alcaraz uncomfortable. Now backhand cross, and he should approach the net as well. Ugo Carabelli actually gets to a couple of balls here, but the smash from Alcaraz is going to clinch the point. 30 love. And this first set is now running away from Camilo very, very quickly. And the problem in his tennis, for sure, when it comes to like facing the top guys, is like, how does he stop this, right? How does he stop this avalanche that has been sort of taking place since Alcaraz found more timing, just found better rhythm. He was 1-2 down, of course, Alcaraz, with a couple of breaks already against him too. And since then, he's won 3 games. He's on his way, seemingly, to win the 4th. And we'll see if Ugo Carabelli has any other ideas for this match. This time he does get a pretty good counter in. This is similar to that first, pre-replayed point, I guess, in this first point of the 7th game, when when that forehand counter that was called out by the line umpire. That was a very similar shot. He can get that deep and heavy pretty consistently to the Alcaraz forehand, and this time it actually makes Carlos sort of probably hit a forced error, but still, it was a good reaction from Camilo for sure. But now he tries to bail out of the rally with a forehand down the line. It's 40-15 Alcaraz. And I think the return from Ugo Carabelli is out as well. So he's giving himself a lot of time, trying to hit it deep, but he misses it. So 5-2, 4 games in a row for Carlos Alcaraz. Still, Ugo Carabelli has not held serve. Should we talk about Świątek a little bit? If you have to pick one, which is one of the reason why you guys not good on fast courts, her technically flawed forehand or her serve? Which one is more important? I mean, these are definitely the biggest two, right? And some of the parts that, I was just about to say, Ghosty, as well, that technically flowed, like some of the extreme grip that she has, is what's allowing her to produce that super heavy shot that's kind of unmatched in the women's game, right? And especially on clay, of course, it is an absolute nightmare to face. But generally, some of that shot quality, it kind of goes with that. The way the forehand is produced, the grip, the motion. So in a way, it is flawed, of course, against pace, especially against flatter pace. When there's not much time on it, it can be rough. So I get what you mean. It's hard to for me to answer this. Like I don't know what's more important because generally speaking, I would probably still say the forehand because, or at least in general, her the fact that she can struggle maybe to use that athleticism that she has and the speed around the court, that sometimes she just tries to sort of go for it, counter it right back. Similarly to actually Carlos Alcaraz, who of clay has that issue as well. Like clay actually brings out the more creative version of Carlos Alcaraz, maybe the more sort of the improv, the one who can come up with some good defensive improvisation. Whereas on hard courts, he's like more compelled to fight fire with fire. I guess with Świątek it's similar, and maybe that's more important. I think. Then again, of course, I'm only saying that because she's still breaking serves so much on hard courts, right? So it shouldn't really matter all that much that her serve is under pressure because, at least in theory, against 90% of opponents, well, against that even more, their serve is also going to be under pressure. So that's why I want to say that. But it's yeah, it's pretty close to me. And also, of course, yeah, she is in a bit of a pickle herself if you were there at the beginning of the stream, because yeah, the three of the four slams don't really suit her. So let's see how she handles that going forward. Obviously, Doha this week, I do expect her to at least get to that final, and we'll see how she does against Rybakina. Anyway, yeah, some talk about the Y as a vowel thing. That was always really surprising to me. That this is even a discussion because in Polish it is a vowel, and I remember I was very surprised when I learned about this for the first time. Anyway, we've got Ferdilov Alcaraz in the Ugo Carabelli service game, so still no holds for Camilo, and it will be hard for him to hold here as well. Yeah, I mean, this is just too much pace on the Alcaraz forehand, you know? He slaps the ball down the middle. I mean, it has no placement, it has no spin really, but it doesn't matter because it's just so fast, and the Argentinian cannot find the response, cannot get it back in play, you know? So 3 set points now. And another stunning return from Alcaraz gets him the game as well. 6-2, 5 games in a row. And, well, let's be honest. I mean, since 1-2 down, perhaps maybe since 2-all, it's not been a match, really. Like, Alcaraz is just having everything his way. And it's tough to find any real edge that Ugo Carabelli can expose if Alcaraz is hitting well. Like, if Alcaraz has no issues with his baseline rhythm, ground strokes, yeah, it's kind of hard for him, for Ugo Carabelli, to find anything in this matchup for sure. To throw him off, in some way, he doesn't really have that, right? Let's see. Maybe he has a broader, wider bag of tricks than we've seen so far. If so, this is the right opportunity to show it. If so, this is obviously one of the biggest matches of his career. How's Carlitos looking on the clay? Asks Ashley. First couple of games, maybe first 3 games were pretty rough. Like, yeah, it was just like common, rust, common lack of rhythm. But ever since, he's really dominating this. And Ugo Carabelli, there's just no real option in his game to disrupt, maybe not even disrupt, maybe to just fire back at Alcaraz. There's no tools like that in his game, right? So it's going to be rough for Camilo to step it up if Carlos is hitting like this. Like the way he's been firing the last 4 games or so, it's kind of hard to find a tool in Ugo Carabelli's repertoire that would allow him to withstand it. And basically, Camilo still hasn't held as well. The 2 games that Alcaraz lost were breaks. It's not looking too bright. Well, we were expecting that for sure. So it's not like it's something that comes as a surprise, right? But yeah, let's see. Of course, the second set, in a way, we're starting from square one, at least in a set, and maybe that can give Ugo Carabelli a bit of a fighting chance and some motivation to dig deeper, to, well, I want to say grind harder because that's kind of what he's gonna do probably. But yeah, as I said at the beginning of the live stream, like there's no real way for him to win the match probably if he's not getting out of that shell and comfort zone and trying to create openings for himself on the forehand side. The problem is that when he has been doing that so far, and in the first few games he was actually getting some chances to do it. Usually he would spray. He missed a couple of really sort of put away shots. The forehand drive, for example. Double fault from Alcaraz to start set 2. There's been a fair few for sure already. I can actually check that, but I think it's like 4 or 5, which also kind of feels like something he will be able to iron out eventually because, well, he's not risking much on these second serves, so it's not like they are calculated risks. But yeah, maybe we can find another break for Hugo Carabelli here as Alcaraz starts pretty poorly. There's a +1 inside in forehand into the net here. So 0-30, love 30. As I'm pulling up the stats to just check out if there was anything interesting there, but I kind of doubt it. Obviously, we're gonna see a very low percentages on serve from Carabelli because he still hasn't held, but we're probably also gonna see pretty low percentages from Alcaraz given he held just twice out of 4 games, and now he's also falling into a lot of trouble as he's low 40 in that first game of the second set. Tries to sort of go for a semi jumping backhand, if you may. Perhaps a bit of an uncomfortable to take off your backhand side as well. That's sort of a mid-court shot. Usually you just clean it up with the forehand more easily. But yeah, I mean, Ugo Carabelli so far has only won 7 points on serve. So that will, of course, be maybe the main area to look at going forward for him. That's something that he can definitely do better. And yeah, four double faults from Alcaraz as I suspected. This was close. This could have been a game for Ugo Carabelli already, but it's not really something that he sort of earned for himself. He kind of did with the moonball return, but eventually it's just Alcaraz who lands the last forehand on the line. So it's not like he pushed for that really. But 2 more breakpoints, so still chances. This serve is a little better from Alcaraz, but again, just deep, heavy return from Ugo Carabelli, getting him back into the point, and this time Alcaraz is flawless on the inside in. This is basically the same shot that he missed in the second point of this game, but this time it's just executed so much better. And 1 more breakpoint for the Argentinian. Again, gets the serve back. That's a start. And he actually gets a chance to take over, and he takes it. Nice. That's probably one of the sort of best decisions from Will Carabelli so far. I don't want to say points as a whole. However, definitely when he saw that one forehand that Alcaraz didn't quite do enough with, the way he just was very quick to pounce, very quick to run around it, and actually get the error from Alcaraz. So unlike on the first point when he just sort of let the Spaniard have his way, second point as well, he takes matters into his own hands here, and he gets the break. He gets his third game of the match, which also is the third break of the match for him because, as I said earlier, he still has not held serve. That's a wild double fault from Ugo Carabelli. That's not going to help him hold for the first time. Physiological? No, no, Ghosty. It's not about it's physiological. It's sort of similar to Coco Golf forehand in a way. Like the offensive potential of the two shots, of course, is very different. But just the way that when it's a flatter sort of faster surface, maybe also favoring flatter hits, you can rush her forehand pretty consistently. You can't really do it to her backhand, but you can rush her forehand and make sure that that extreme grip that she has, very clay oriented, sort of based around bringing up that huge spin that she dominates her opponents with. On a court like in Doha, it's pretty hard to do it. Like on a court like in Doha, definitely the bigger flow in terms of Nurlan's question is the serve. Yes, on a court like in Doha for sure. But if we get something like the Australian Open, it's kind of half and half. But no, it's not about the physiological issues of that. No. It's more so handling pace at the forehand, especially flatter. I feel like what you're saying about her backhand, though, Nurlan, is like a bit like that Djokovic serve thing, where for a while, indeed, it was the case that it was underrated, but right now everyone kind of agrees with that. I still feel like offensively, it's probably the best forehand in the game. Defensively, no, no, definitely not. But yeah, it's fantastic. It has a pretty major issue with it, but it's not important enough for me to call it a weakness still. Well, at least maybe we can call it a weakness in just that one or two aspects. Anyway, actually, Ugo Carabelli might finally hold. I think I take Carlitos is rusty, said Ashley. I mean, he was in the first few games, but then of course since like 2-all more or less, he had a brilliant patch. Now he actually committed a few easier errors. Yeah, Ghosty, Kenin Collins, Noshkova, it's a similar pattern, right? I mean, she's losing to a lot of these powerful flat hitters of both wings, like the matchup with Rybakina, even the matchup of Alexandrova, where she's usually struggling. Ostapenko, of course. Yeah, it's a combination of the serve and the forehand. It's sort of like I don't know, a Mayar Sherif or Tamara Zidanshek will never be that good on hard courts, right? Of course, in terms of Iga, it's a different level that we're talking about, but still, it's a similar type of like a very clay oriented shot, or at least a shot that requires time to produce. On the men's side, you would have like Jack Sock maybe with a similar grip, Karen Khachanov in a way as well. And this is a game for Camilo Carabelli. This is the first hold that he gets in this match. Alcaraz with a couple of sloppy errors to not break from low 30. However, credit to Camilo here for stepping in, taking a big forehand, and then going to the net and actually getting a pretty nice, softer forehand volley. Yeah, no, this was pretty clean technically as well. Definitely not a part of his game that we often watch, but he did everything right here. So once again, Alcaraz is down a break, just like in the opening set. In the opening set, it was actually twice. This time, for the first time, he is down a break that was also consolidated. Is it time to worry for him? Probably not yet, but one more break, let's say, and then we might actually start thinking about the possibility of a deciding set or Carabelli getting there. Basically, if there's uncertainty, if that these rhythm issues come back. And right now, it does feel like there's a certain degree of uncertainty in Alcaraz's game for sure, as he misses that +1 forehand and does feel like a bit in two minds when it comes to how he should hit it, and eventually that usually leads to an error. Yeah, with this one, he won't have any issues though. This is just taken so early, sort of not even in a clay court manner, but any sort of, let's say, 3/4 of the court return from Ugo Carabelli that just sits up there, it's eaten up. Gotta at least push Alcaraz away from that, let's say, middle section of the court a little bit. But it's going to be hard if he's serve and volleying and he misses it. That was a serve and volley on the second serve, but Ugo Carabelli goes for the return down the middle, and it's enough to make Alcaraz uncomfortable here. Love to 15-30, so we really might get some big time action in this set. Yeah, I like that Alcaraz forehand because he actually played it with quite a lot of margin here. It was very different to the previous plus ones that he missed, you know? He actually, you could see how, especially at the end of the motion, he really twisted it in a way that would ensure that the ball is going to get into the court. And then he actually hits a very tough forehand volley to Ugo Carabelli, just barely not getting to it. I think the ball maybe didn't even bounce twice, but maybe bounced off his racket and then into the court. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Again, the Alcaraz drop shot isn't too perfect. However, he's going to lob Ugo Carabelli and get the point. Nice fake out here as well, sort of prepping for a smash and then just putting the racket away for a second and just tapping it over the net. So 40-30. Alcaraz, will he get the first game of the second set on his tally? Wow. Camilo Carabelli with the huge forehand return, and this is taking advantage of Alcaraz, just rolling these second serves in, because that's really what Alcaraz has been doing with them. Like, it's literally down the middle of the same kicker every single time almost. And Ugo Carabelli knows what to expect right now, and he just runs around it and smashes honestly one of the fastest forehands I've ever seen from him. So but yeah, obviously it's not a guarantee that the next time this opportunity comes up, Alcaraz is also going to serve like this. But at least now he did, and he was read like a book by the Argentinian. But Ugo Carabelli will regret missing this shot, though. He was in the rally, he just misses a regulation backhand cross. One more game point for Alcaraz. Yeah, a bit of a jumping forehand with a lot of pace. This time Ugo Carabelli handles it, and I appreciate the attempt to go inside out with a nice angle. He misses it though, and Alcaraz gets his first game of the second set. Why is Zarenka absolutely dominating Ostapenko? Is it all mental? Yeah, it's a bit interesting for sure. I mean, they're both such aggressive returners, right? And you wouldn't feel like, generally speaking, it's going to be such a dominant matchup. Obviously, there was Brisbane recently where it was actually really, really close. And I kind of felt like their next matches should be pretty similar, let's say. But I think the sort of the serving of Azarenka these days, it's actually better than the way it was, let's say, even in her prime. And that's a big help for her in this matchup because she's like kind of dominating Ostapenko on the serve return game. Ostapenko is a very decent server, and of course, one of her best traits is the fact that she just crushes every single return against her opposition. And Azarenka can kind of match it. Maybe she's not as 100% as explosive, but she's still one of the best returners in the game. And I think that kind of starts with it. The serve return game of Azarenka improving probably even more so when it comes to her prime. Well, at least on serve. On return, she's probably a little weaker. But also maybe like the physical decline, the fact that Azarenka lost half a step. Ostapenko probably not the best player to capitalize on that because she doesn't really construct points, right? She just really blasts her way through an opponent. I mean, it shouldn't be a 5-0 head to head still, but it is somewhat understandable. I still expected more of their matches to be like Brisbane rather than Australian Open and Doha, that's for sure. Brisbane, of course, being a 7-5 win for Azarenka, but was a very competitive and high quality match. Like a bit of a returning clinic as well. They were just blasting their returns left and right. And I think especially in the breakpoints, on the breakpoints in the third set, like Azarenka was just finding these aces out wide all the time. So yeah, it is a big sort of improvement for her in this matchup for sure. That her serve right now is a bigger deal than it was in the past. It used to be mentioned as a weakness in her prime. Right now, it's not really that. So I think that's sort of keeping her afloat at the top of the sport as well. That even with some light physical decline, she's still improved, especially on serve. So at least improved in some other aspects, let's say. Anyway, we've got Ugo Carabelli now at 15 all. I wanted to talk about the previous point, but I don't remember it now because I started thinking about Azarenka and Ostapenko again. Oh, it was actually a surprisingly good volley again from Ugo Carabelli. A couple of times when he got to the net in this match, he's been really good, actually. And it seemed that Alcaraz should probably just have a field day passing him here. But actually, Camilo came up with a surprisingly soft sort of stop volley on the backhand side. Here, maybe there was also an opportunity for him to progress forward into the court a little bit more. He had a nice angle on that forehand inside in. Eventually, he tries to pull the trigger back and down the line, and it's not too close. Some of these attempts of like Alcaraz's fast-paced quality defensive ball, and he tries to go down the line with it, forehand or backhand, they have been like very misguided, I would say. But I guess that was a bit of a reaction to the fact that he just had no idea how to win that point potentially from that point onwards. Smart here to defend with the moonball, though. He totally gets himself into the point again. But similarly to, I think, the last game, he just can't be missing neutral backhands like this. To win this match, he has to be a wall, right? There can't be too many errors, at least when he's not trying to dictate, when he's not trying to crank some shots himself. But when he's defending, there he has to be a wall. Anyway, he saves the first breakpoint. That's a bit of an Alcaraz play here with the forehand drop shot. And Alcaraz was just totally running into the other direction. So one more breakpoint for the word number 2. Now he is a player. He is the player who sort of starts the point with a moonball return. I like the chances for Ugo Carabelli here to maybe have a more comfortable ball attacking on the forehand here, and he kind of did for a while. But eventually, it's Alcaraz who makes the error. Another one of these shoulder height backhands that he misses. He's like kind of semi-jumping to it, and so far he's made a few errors like this. I remember the previous one, he was like going cross, but he totally mishit it, and it went long but down the middle. Here he kept up the direction at least, but he nets it. So back to deuce now. Yeah, this forehand dropper is pretty weak. I think playing someone like Ugo Carabelli for Alcaraz in the opening round is definitely quite good. Like it's an opponent who doesn't pose that much of a threat, especially in terms of his ground game, and you kind of get a lot of rhythm out of this. However, of course, you also want to win, earlier than later. You don't actually want to just give him confidence and let him sort of claw his way into the match. So you're not going to be sort of allowing him to keep troubling you for longer than you should. And especially by now, these forehand counters cross court from Ugo Carabelli have been pretty painful for Alcaraz. The forehand slice earlier on to handle one of these uber powerful forehands cross from Alcaraz that we've seen so far in this match a few times, it actually helped him to stay around. And then Alcaraz opens up the angle for him, opens up that favorite Ugo Carabelli shot. So one more time, we are at deuce. In what feels like a pretty crucial game for sure. I mean, 3-1 is still an advantage. 3-1 is still something you can sort of cling to, whereas 2-all, Ugo Carabelli will be in danger of potentially Alcaraz just running away with it like he did in the first set. And a double fault will not help right now. One more breakpoint for the Spaniard. I think it's the third in this game. Fourth, maybe even. Now he's defending, but yeah, Ugo Carabelli not really able to maintain that pressure that he got early on with the first big forehand. However, it's Alcaraz now who misses a somewhat neutral backhand. Like, he wasn't really in like a position where you usually hit, I guess, but yeah, still no excuse for that miss. So 4 breakpoints, I think by now it's been. And this forehand return as well, so Ugo Carabelli will get his chance to hold for 3-1. And maybe this is the moment where we start getting some doubts in Alcaraz, where we start him actually thinking that, soon enough I might be in big trouble, and that could lead to some more errors. Who knows? But can Ugo Carabelli clinch this game? Net court goes wide, so we still haven't gotten out of this. I feel like this last game has been very, very long. Question from Sean I see about table tennis. When I play, do I have many different serves? I'm well, for a while I kinda had this one side underspin thing of my backhand side, but actually I started let's say like 2 years ago I started developing a forehand serve as well, and I have, well, let's say a few different options there. My serve is still one of the weakest parts of my game, so, well, probably the weakest, in fact. Like it's just not giving me too much advantage. Is it attackable? Maybe sometimes as well, but most of the time, let's say against opponents of my level, it's just not giving me an advantage. Let's say most of the time, but yeah, at least on that forehand, I've actually started developing a lot of different. Well, developing. I can hit a few different serves, let's say, and that's at least allows me to keep the opponent guessing, which I feel like is more important than anything else, really. Sometimes, especially when I'm playing someone for the first time, these people can actually struggle with my serve, even though it's so crap. They actually like expect more on it than there is. Like they expect more spin than there is on that serve, and and actually they tend to struggle maybe a little bit or just set up some easier balls. But yeah, it definitely could be better. But to answer to your question, I have like one backhand serve, which is like my comfort option, and a few on the forehand side for sure. It's kind of easy because it's not like in tennis where you have like 3 main. Well, you can still probably go for 3 main things like topspin, side spin, and underspin, I guess, but it all sort of gets mixed up. Obviously, there's so much more than you can do in terms of spin with a table tennis rubber. than you can do with a tennis racket and a tennis ball. So like the possibilities are kind of endless when it comes to different types of serve, and especially directions and depth and spins. Yeah. So it's easy to have a lot of different serves, is what I'm trying to say, because the possibilities are kind of endless. And so we're still in this long fourth game of the second set. Ugo Carabelli drop shotting Alcaraz, and Carlos gets to it, but can't get any decent control on the response. Yeah, I haven't even seen that medical attention thing that John is mentioning. So I guess they haven't stopped the match at all. They just didn't think that it has to be stopped then. Apparently it must be like pretty far away from the players then. Ugo Carabelli going down the line with the backhand, can he actually convert? I think he can, yes. That's one of his best points in terms of like just hitting that short ball forehand and still going for a nice direction of it, not just giving the ball back to Alcaraz. Because a lot of the time when he finds that one big shot and then has I don't want to say a put away yet, but just a mid court forehand that just sort of is there to be converted. He hasn't been hitting that too well, but now he does, and he gets another game point in this long, kind of pivotal game as well. Let's see if he can take it this time. Alcaraz stepping in for the backhand cross. He was sort of thinking of going to the net there, it seems. Eventually, he decides against it and wins the point with Ugo Carabelli backhand error, which is like on the verge of forced and unforced, I would say. What was that Prime Serena thing? Prime Serena Williams versus Sabalenka Rybakina Świątek right now. Who wins? I mean, Prime Serena Williams, kind of Prime Serena Williams. But if I'm also not on that team who like says that the players of today wouldn't stand a chance against Serena. Like, um, if obviously Serena had some devastating matchups. She was, I think, 10-0 against Agnieszka Radwańska. If we count Hopman Cup, she was 21-2, I think, against Sharapova. But I feel like these players, especially if they got Serena, not at her very best, which her prime honestly was like so drawn out, and she always had like years when she wouldn't even be playing all that much. So it's kind of hard to say when that actual prime for her was. Was it early in her career? Was it when she was like 20? Or is it, let's say, 2015? Because by 2015, a lot of people were saying that she just doesn't really have any rivals, which was kind of true as well. It wasn't like, 2012, 13, when at least there was Azarenka. So prime, whatever that prime is, obviously she's better. When it comes to their chances at beating her, especially sort of, favorable conditions and her not being at her best, yeah, I think if they play 20 times, they would get matches against her for sure. Probably more than Maria Sharapova got beating Serena just twice, sort of at the very beginning of her career. Anyway, this really should have been Ugo Carabelli's point. I mean, this was not a good drop shot from Alcaraz, but it touches the net and it falls on that side. So one more breakpoint for Alcaraz in what feels like a really mammoth game by now. I have no idea how long it's been, but I feel like I've started talking about like 10 different things in the meantime. It's still not over. It's still not over. It is over now. The forehand counter of Alcaraz, pretty much no net clearance on it. And Will Carabelli tries to defend himself with that forehand slice again, but it is just wide right now. So 2 games all. And let's see how much momentum Alcaraz can get out of this. Azarenka is a pusher? Nah, definitely not. I think your definition of a pusher, Nurlan, is very broad, which is fine. But like, nah, Azarenka is obviously a very aggressive player. She kind of has to be right now as well. With yeah, maybe her footwork not being as good as in her prime, but most of the time when she was like 2012, 13, 16, she was known for her very aggressive returning. Like that was That was the trademark. Yeah. Iga beat Vika today, and she's gonna play Pliskova, who, well, might not have enough left in the tank finally, but who knows? We'll see. She's kind of unsinkable this week. Have you heard anything more about why Mehdi pulled out of Qatar? I bet Shrihari is super bummed about that. Shrihari is actually from Dubai, I think. So Shrihari was very pleased with Medvedev and Djokovic being the top two seeds there. And we'll see about that. Like, we'll see if Medvedev plays that. But yeah, I don't think there's been much info, Ghosty, about this. I think it's just literally him saying at first that he is pulling out of Rotterdam because he hasn't gotten back to his full strength after the Australian Open. And now it's the same. But of course, it's been a while. So there's probably like at least a small underlying, physical issue. We'll see. Playing for 24 hours at the Australian Open, it's kind of bound to have left a bit of a stain on his conditioning, on his physicality as a whole. So hopefully he's back sooner than later and can also defend some of these February, March points. Like, I don't think it really matters if you're still top 4 in the world, but obviously these are some of his best events usually. So as long as he's top 4, it doesn't matter if he's 4 or fair or 3, right? I mean, Sinner can get to number 3 today and this week, and it's not gonna be that impactful when it comes to the draws, but especially if he would miss the Sunshine Double, like that would be huge. But for that, it would have to be an actual like physical big injury. But yeah, we just don't know. We just know that he's been sort of delaying that comeback. Similarly to, let's say, Medjedovic, also, who also has been like withdrawing from tournaments gradually, and he says it's due to illness, and we don't really have a clue what that is about. Probably more people are interested in Daniel Medvedev withdrawing from tournaments. I personally am definitely more interested in Medjedovic, but well, but yeah, unless Medvedev pulls out of Dubai, Shrihari is gonna be fine. I think at least that's what I got from his tweet earlier today. 40-30, Carlos Alcaraz, Ugo Carabelli getting a nice point here, but let's see if Carlos can just hold. The first set had Ugo Carabelli leading 2-1 with a break, the second 2-love. And of course, we know how the first set ended. Let's see if Ugo Carabelli can avoid this. Well, that's a bit of a crazy point now. And Alcaraz wins it. So basically, Camilo was hitting this great backhand return down the line. They're kind of laughing at each other right now. But yeah, Camilo hit this great backhand return down the line. Carlos barely tracked it down. The ball was like so short that it got a little uncomfortable for Camilo. And he tried to play a drop shot, but Alcaraz has enough to get to it and pass him. So 3-2 for the Spaniard now. Still not like fully in control, but especially if he wins the next game, that's when we'll be just sort of just already putting an end to this match in our heads. We'll see if that will be right, if that will be wise. But after this match, we still have. Is this still the same games as Ashley? No, I mean it's 3-2 by now, Alcaraz. So we have the changeover after that very long game. We have the scoreboard on the screen, by the way, but maybe you're just listening or something. But anyway, after this match, we also have one more, of course, in Buenos Aires, and that's going to be Luciano Darderi against Sebastian Baez. Again, yes, they're playing for the second time in 5 days, essentially. And yeah, Baez, I think in his last 11 matches on clay or something like that, has only lost to Darderi. So it is very exciting to see if the Cordoba champion can keep it up. He did against Navone. He got another day off. Should be a tight one. Alex Michelsen against Tommy Paul and Del Rey, of course, going on right now as well. They are in the third set. Michelsen led by a break briefly. However, it's now 5-4 with Tommy Paul to serve to stay in the match. That's the Delray Beach action. And in the meantime, also Russevori defeated Struff in Rotterdam quite easily, 6-3, 6-3. In Buenos Aires, we already have a couple of quarterfinals set up, of course, from yesterday, one of them being Lajovic Diaz Acosta, and the other being Wawrinka Jari against Echeverry. Wawrinka, of course, had a big chance to get there, but no, actually, he lost to Nicolas Jari from 5-3 in the third. So Jari Echeverry. And here, this match, the winner of this will play Andrea Vavasori, which I think is a very good outcome for both, really, because of course Carabelli would be a bigger favorite against he wouldn't be a favorite against Jere, he would be against Vavasori. And when it comes to Alcaraz, I think the Jere matchup is potentially tricky, generally speaking. Jere took a set of him in the Golden Swing last year as well. And just the overall sort of big weight of shot that Jere brings, at the same time being pretty solid when he is focused. Like it's not an easy game profile, I think, for Alcaraz to handle sometimes when he's not on one of his weaker days, let's say. So I think it's a very good outcome earlier today that for Alcaraz that Vavasori beat Jere, and that's going to be the quarterfinal opponent for either of these players. Federico Coria, who beat Cameron Norrie earlier, is going to play one of Baez Darteri. Love 30 now on the Ugo Carabelli game. He tracks down Alcaraz drop shot, but just barely throws this shot out, which actually could have given him the point, I think. It wasn't a very comfortable position for Alcaraz to play a lob from, even though he would have tried for sure. Great return here as well from Alcaraz. The way that serve from Ugo Carabelli just sat up in the court just gave him so much time to get the first strike in. And again, the RPMs, the pace on the forehand, just a little too much for Camilo to handle. So 3 break points now, and at 6-2, 4-2, you would be, very, very close to just giving up on this match a little bit. But if it ends like this, Ugo Carabelli still gave a pretty decent fight, and especially that fourth game of the second set is going to be remembered for a while. But that's not going to be a good memory from this match, though. That double fault that he just hit, that the ball was like almost outside the court, I would say. He was aiming at one of the boxes, I think. I just don't know if it was his box or Alcaraz's. Maybe he was aiming at John Silk in the crowd. It's possible. Maybe John was hustling him, and I don't know. Maybe John was screaming something, and Ugo Carabelli just wanted to land him in the face. Who knows? We'll never know, probably, because John is not gonna ask him about it. I'm not gonna get the chance, probably. Anyway, I'm talking such ridiculous things here, but this is a pretty nice point from Alcaraz. He gets into that position on the backhand side, hitting the inside out forehand, and the last shot especially, just a bit of a magic touch in terms of getting the angle, and at the same time still playing it relatively safe. 15 love. The serve is not doing too much damage, but at least the Ugo Carabelli returns aren't too threatening either for the most part. And it's another +1 forehand winner for Alcaraz. Taken very early, and just nothing that Camilo can do, really. And again, the forehand pace is just a little much for Dilov up. Very close to that 6-5 lead. From which point onwards, it really would be the upset of the decade if Ugo Carabelli won this from 2-6, 2-5. I think even pre-match it would have been a massive one. And for me, as I said earlier, definitely bigger than the one against Marozsan, despite the odds being shorter. But yeah, I mean, just the way that Ugo Carabelli and Marozsan play, really, that's not comparable in terms of their chances for getting big upsets. And we're seeing the first set again, essentially. A rough start at the very beginning. That's basically saying the same thing twice, but a rough start from Alcaraz in both sets, really. But then once he tunes in his shots, basically there's no way for Ugo Carabelli to respond, to disrupt, to trick him into something. And yeah, it's just what he plays, right? Like that it's not like he can do better. So definitely not a performance that we're going to be grilling him over. Yeah, that's what I figured, Ashley. Sean, does Alcaraz's serve still need improvement? I read an interesting quote, or at least a discussion on Twitter about this recently, where Andy Roddick was like, it definitely does, and like, let's look at Coco Gauff or someone like that, because he was, consulting her a little bit with the serve. And I read a few people who just said, well, but there's only so much you can do as well. I mean, Alcaraz is never going to be taller than he is right now, right? Or maybe, maybe he can be like a centimeter or two taller, whatever. But there's only so much you can do with it. And it's definitely not as, let's say, not as much of a hot topic, not as much of a needed point of improvement as it was, but I still feel like there is more to get out of it. And yeah, it would raise his ceiling, obviously, if he had a bigger delivery. On clay, I think he is one of the best servers in the world because he has a lot of variety on it, and basically it doesn't matter if maybe, um, well, if maybe it's not like bringing him as many free points as for some other players, because these big servers will also be impacted. But I feel like sometimes in quicker conditions he can definitely be vulnerable to someone who's, yeah, just winning 50% of his points with unreturned serves. But then again, who isn't, right? But yeah, it's not like a Djokovic level serve or a Sinner level serve right now. Sinner with the improvements has definitely pulled ahead of Alcaraz in terms of the serve game, which could be a big thing actually if they play in on like an indoor court, or yeah, anywhere that's faster really. It could be a big asset for Sinner right now over Alcaraz if they play each other again anytime soon. So I would say, especially in these two matchups that seem to be the key right now on the tour. So Djokovic and Sinner, the serve is not really helping Alcaraz for the most part. Against Medvedev, it's a different thing because yeah, all these serves out wide and the way he can attack their deep return position, that's a little easier, and it's actually an asset a lot of the time. But against Sinner and Djokovic, so the key matchups right now on the tour for him, mm, I feel like they actually aren't that help. Well, the serve isn't that helpful to him. It's more of a disadvantage compared to theirs, compared to sort of that part, these particular matchups, how the dynamics work and how they interact with each other. So I feel like it's still, you can get a bit more out of it, I think. But I appreciated the debate sort of that I was reading that well, yeah, just had one side mentioning that basically you can still work on it, and you can sort of maybe take from other players as well during it, take from the improvements that other players have pulled off. Whereas it's also a serious case that, well, he is like an inch or two shorter than most of, let's say, most of the more, let's say, not like the big servers, but some of the more efficient servers, like Federer, Djokovic, and all these guys who basically have elite serves despite not being that tall. He is like an inch or two, maybe even three, in some cases shorter than them. So I don't know. Probably as usual, the truth lies in the middle. Anyway, where does the truth lie in this eighth game of the second set? It lies with Camilo Carabelli, who gets on the board for the fifth time, 6-2, 5-3. Carlos Alcaraz about to serve for the match. and new balls as well. We'll see if that helps him clinch the game more easily. Was going for that huge serve down the tee here, but he misses it, so gonna start in the second one. And it's a double fault to fall down love 15. And again, love 30. Alcaraz just not handling that deep forehand inside out from Ugo Carabelli too well. Ends up missing a neutral backhand by quite a long distance. So love 30, and suddenly maybe we might get to 5 or 5-4 from being in real deep trouble for the Argentinian. Let's see. It's still only love 30. It's still not even break points. Yeah, sometimes again when the return is just midway through the court, that already puts Ugo Carabelli in such a difficult spot. Defending against that first Alcaraz forehand is always going to be very tough if there's not enough on the serve. Although from time to time he's definitely had some really good heavy deep returns. Sometimes even you could classify them as boon balls, and they've also helped him reset. Ooh, okay. I didn't know it was going to happen after this net cord, but it is 30 all now. As the ball stayed on Ugo Carabelli's side of the net, that was just off the return. And that will be a match point for Carlos Alcaraz. Again, just a shorter point. Serve plus one forehand smash. The serve not even being that amazing, but again, if the return isn't very deep, if it's just two down the middle, nothing on it, Alcaraz is gonna crack that first forehand, and it's gonna be very hard for Ugo Carabelli to stay alive. So a match point now. Ugo Carabelli slicing now. Actually gets a forehand out of it. This was like a bit of a smart setup from him for sure. Doesn't do that much with it, as usual. And still, it's Alcaraz eventually cracking in this rally. Ugo Carabelli just barely getting a backhand down the middle in. It was just like, touching the baseline. And Alcaraz puts a little too much on this inside out forehand. So a break point for the Argentinian now to keep himself in it and to have a chance to serve to get to 5-all if he can convert this. So it's a pretty big opportunity, needless to say. That serve was barely in, but they are playing. Trading backhands. Alcaraz snapping at that one down the line. And eventually he makes the error. Again, he tries to sort of just go for that cue shot of the forehand cross court. And he mishits it completely. So 6-2, 5-4, and Ugo Carabelli still alive, saving a match point, I think. So yeah, He's still in this match. And let's see if Alex Mikkelsen beat Tommy Paul. They are actually in the third set tiebreak by now. I think in Delray it's two more matches today, so it's gonna be a later finish with Fritz Hijikata and not Fritz Hijikata. Fritz Hijikata is tomorrow. Today it's also Sfaida Koboli and Albot Tiafo. Whereas here, as I said, in Buenos Aires, Baez Darderi is the only remaining match, the Cordoba semifinal from last week, just 6 days later, depending on how you count. But yeah, maybe Alcaraz just fends this off and breaks for the match right away. Who knows? Let's see. 39% first serve points won only for Ugo Carabelli, 19 on the second serve. But Alcaraz's percentages obviously don't look that great either. I mean, Alcaraz has only won 53% of his service points as a whole. Ugo Carabelli 41, which yeah, we've been seeing this whole match that it's not easy for the guys. 4 breaks for Ugo Carabelli, 6 for Alcaraz. And I think we're just coming back now. I just got home to watch the end of this match, and Carlitos Tanks match points is actually, yeah. We'll see if now you're going to see a brilliant comeback, or is it just going to be a short lived affair with Alcaraz now cracking that forehand crosscourt winner inside out, actually, to get the first point of this game. I think in the previous one, where he had the chance to serve it out, he was love 30 down, but then eventually, of course, yeah, that match point at 40-30. Forehand drop shot from Alcaraz is going to be perfect here. And it's set up by that big forehand earlier, by the depth of it, by the heaviness of it down the middle. And of course, it's that thing we always talk about the Alcaraz drop shot, that basically what's most dangerous about it is just the fact that you never really know if to expect another huge forehand blow or just that soft, delicate touch. Carabelli backing down the line. Alcaraz is, of course, quick to cover it, but he's still in the point, the Argentinian is. He's really playing some of his best tennis of the match the last few minutes as well. And he does get the point eventually. Was quite ballsy on a few opportunities here. It wasn't like an obvious down the line chance. But he goes for it on a couple of shots and eventually gets an error from Alcaraz. Juan Carlos Ferrero sort of pumping his protege up. He wants him to clean this, to clinch this in this game. Obviously, that's what Alcaraz wants as well. 2 more points to win the match, but also 2 points from a 5-all score, which would be a great testament to Ugo Carabelli's fighting spirit. But he does not do enough on this forehand approach shot, and Carlos Alcaraz just passes him for one of the best shots of the match so far. Even the security guards that we had on our screens is like laughing. And it is a match point, second one, this time on the Ugo Carabelli serve. But as we know in this match, Carlos is actually winning more points on the Ugo Carabelli delivery than on his. So maybe it's not that big a deal. He throws in a loopy return to keep himself in the point, and yeah, That's wild. I'm not even sure what he was doing with that backhand, honestly. I thought he might go down the line at first, just use that first heavy shot to set up an attack, but no. He just misses it by a country mile and shanks it to a point where it was hard to see what he was doing. So 2 match points saved by now by Ugo Carabelli. Another heavy loopy for backhand return from Alcaraz. Kind of knows that Ugo Carabelli will not do much with the ball. And he tries to take this one very early as well. Great forehand to set up this shot, but the squash shot from Ugo Carabelli was actually pretty decent. It dipped low below the net. Alcaraz tries to take it very early, just in a sort of hardcore, more hardcore-ish type of manner, and he does shank it. Some of the bounces on this Buenos Aires court, we had that stream yesterday for Wawrinka Jari. We were talking about this with Vanch, that the slice approaches down the line from Jari were like dying on the court. It's a similar shot here, similar spin, so possibly the bounce also could have been a little tricky. But here Ugo Carabelli should have gone down the line. If he loses this point, it's kind of his fault because he really let Alcaraz get back to that. Who wins this? He has the open line and he takes it. That's really good as well from Ugo Carabelli because, of course, there was a bit of luck in that squash defense again and how it made Alcaraz a little uncomfortable. Carlos totally should have taken it off the backhand, by the way. And eventually, he kind of let this he had to lift the ball. And Ugo Carabelli runs towards it. And there, it was easy, I think, to get overexcited on this pass. It was easy to just see that open corridor that you have and just maybe overhit it, maybe don't time it well. But Ugo Carabelli, what he did well here was really just slow things down. He knew that the space is there, and he only really needs to hit into it, like regardless of what sort of pace is on the ball. So I think especially on the run here, that was actually really, really smart from him. So 5 games all now. 2 match points have been saved by the Argentinian, and suddenly we have, well, at least a set on our hands. We'll see if a match on our hands, but now at 5-all, of course, the margins do get slimmer, and especially if Alcaraz will be missing this backhand cross. I eventually did not have to talk about that inside in forehand that Ugo Carabelli didn't take, and just gave the ball back to Carlos, and eventually he won the point. So of course, we're not gonna remember that. Low 15 now as well in the 5-all game. This is getting really weird for Alcaraz, of course, especially if he loses this game. There's gonna be a lot of pressure, given what happened the last few chances, and Ugo Carabelli is definitely feeling it right now, and he finds this as well. And Alcaraz drop shot, he manages to chase it down and gets the perfect response really on the line. Love 30. And yeah, this is maybe what I was talking about. I don't remember when, but it was a long while ago where I just said that, that Ugo Carabelli is a pretty pleasant opponent for your opening round. You're going to get a lot of rhythm out of this match. But at the same time, of course, you just don't want to give him too much confidence and stay with him on the court too long. Because, yeah, right now, Camilo is kind of flying. Even with that game profile that doesn't really allow him to fight back against Alcaraz mostly in the rallies, he still is able to actually respond to some of the massive forehand pace that Alcaraz is throwing at him, and he's definitely playing like some of his more I want to say opportunistic, but like in a good way It's one of the more opportunistic patches of the match for Ugo Carabelli in a good way. In that, when he gets an opportunity, he actually is willing to up the pace a little bit himself, and now he gets free break points, so he might actually serve for the set in a second. Really good backhand pass here, especially of a slice approach from Alcaraz. It was not gonna be easy to pull off this shot. $15.30 for now. Alcaraz serve and volleying, and he gets the point down as well. So 30-40. A couple of just easier points set up by the serve. And he will need one more. I mean, he will need one more break point because 6-5 Ugo Carabelli, even with the sort of breakdown of serve and return that we've had so far in this match, both players essentially, well, Ugo Carabelli even losing more points than he's winning on serve, Alcaraz more or less about 50%. Even with that, it would be a big opportunity for Camilo. Second serve, or is it let? I think it might be let. But it's an ace, and this comes really handy. This comes at the best possible time for Alcaraz. We haven't really seen something like this from him, 3 easy points coming from the serve, and now 4, but that's a return that Ugo Carabelli could have made. But yeah, this is something we haven't really seen from Alcaraz in this match, and it comes at such an important moment, which is somewhat unfortunate for Ugo Carabelli. Of course, at the same time, you can also praise Alcaraz and just the way he found some of his best serving in the most important moment. So, it kind of goes both ways. But anyway, now he has a game point to get to 6-5 and force Ugo Carabelli to stay in it again. Camilo taking a pretty big forehand return, and wow, even from that position when he had like a approach shot to play more or less, I mean, basically in the forecourt, basically close to the net, he still manages to get a pretty nice shot out of this, and that's definitely not in his usual hitting zone. Deuce. Forehand drop shot from Alcaraz on the first shot, and it's gonna be good enough. And yeah, again, you don't really expect it because of the, let's say, +1 shot here, no one hits a dropper in this spot, and maybe they're wrong not to do it. Maybe they actually should, but you definitely just expect a quality forehand on the first ball here. Anyway, game point for Alcaraz again at 5-0. And it's another big serve for Alcaraz. 6-5 now, and really the serving got him out of trouble here, which is a welcome change up in this match for him because, yeah, before that he was not getting anything out of it, really. Same as, of course, Ugo Carabelli, but Anything else on the chat from that point onwards? Carlos emojis when he had match point. Yeah, Keen. I was actually thinking about that recently because we were talking about Mikkelsen when it was like the last part of the 2023 season, like these US indoor challengers, and I kept picking him to win one. Of course, when he actually won one, I didn't pick him, I think, but I remember you saying that like he's overrated, and this is definitely a win for me against you. Yes. I will take some losses, of course. Also, I have taken some losses already, but Alex Mikkelsen is definitely a point for me. And I, by the way, do agree with you on that. Geomard Weyenburg, or whatever his name is pronounced. Like, I haven't replied to it yet because I was sitting here, but I was also that's a loss for me, but apparently a loss for you as well. So we can just both hide our faces in shame. I also didn't actually know yet that Mikkelsen lost because I was, of course, busy watching this match. But yeah, he lost that deciding set tiebreak. In case anyone is interested. Specifically this year after the next gen finals, yeah, he has been a much more interesting part of the main tour than he was last year. Although even at the US Open Winston Salem, he was pretty good already. It was maybe just the next gen finals that was a touch disappointing. It's another forehand drop shot from Alcaraz. I wonder what's going to happen here. He gets the lob done, but I think Ugo Carabelli should throw in. Yeah, he manages to get it back, but Alcaraz just gets an easy put away out of this. Yeah, some slight opportunity again for Ugo Carabelli to maybe be a little more dominant. But love 30 down, and he's again in trouble here. And that's 3 match points now for Carlos Alcaraz. If he fails to convert them, that would be pretty wild. But of course, it's a much better opportunity than before. And that's going to be the match. Carlos Alcaraz finally clinches it 6-2, 7-5. A bit a bit tougher than it had to be. Like, it easily could have been a 6-2, 6-2 match, could have been a 6-2, 6-3-1. But of course, in the end, it's not going to matter all that much. It's still a pretty decent rhythm, as I said. They were both really struggling to win games on serve in general. Alcaraz 7 out of 18 on breakpoints. He generated 18 breakpoints, broke 7 times in a match where I think Ugo Carabelli must have served only 10 times. Yeah, so he's only helped 3 times. So definitely a bit of a rusty start for Alcaraz, but after all, tomorrow it's Andrea Vavasori. Also theoretically not the toughest opponent yet. So there's going to be more time for him to tune in his game potentially. And for Ugo Carabelli, a good fighting effort. I mean, he didn't have the tennis quality to really hang with Alcaraz, right? But that's a thing, right? I saw Mikkelsen play a crazy drop shot in one of his matches. No, he's not. He's not really known for his drop shots. No, I would say more so the backhand down the line, and probably, well, sort of as he's improved, also the serving. But generally speaking, maybe like more of a all-rounded baseline game with the backhand down the line being the more a bigger trademark. I don't think he's known for his drop shot really. But yeah, Ugo Carabelli, good fighting effort. As I said, not didn't really have the quality or the tools to hang with Alcaraz in this matchup. But once the opportunities came, he was doing well to convert them and to sort of be more opportunistic, take the chances that were coming his way and take the openings that were created for him or that he created himself. So it was a decent effort, definitely. But as a whole, of course, that match only had like one winner from the very beginning. We'll see how Alcaraz can play himself into this tournament because uh, yeah, because if he sort of wants to win the title, he will need to improve a little bit. But there's a lot of time for him to do it. It seems with the kind of draw that he has. Probably the semifinals right now looking like the biggest threat, right? Jari or Echeverry. But anyway, I'll see you guys in some other streams. Thank you for all the comments, and it was definitely fun as usual. Even though the match seemed lopsided at first, it kind of was all the way until 6-2, 5-2. But still, we got some nice intel, I guess, on Alcaraz early on in the Buenos Aires campaign. And he remains one of the main favorite. Well, he remains the overwhelming favorite to defend his title, obviously. Again, thank you, and I'll see you guys around. Bye.